When you have no motivation to do what you need to do, it can feel daunting to even get started. And then there's the voices.
It's gonna be too hard. You don't know what you're doing. You don't have time to. I'd rather be watching television or in the car. It's gonna be too hard. It's gonna be too hard.
You just need to turn your brain off. While this may work for you sometimes, it's not always going to be the solution that you need. I'll tell you more about that later. This isn't a new idea by any stretch. Many years ago, Mel Robins gave a talk at TED where she talks about the 5-second rule. And it's this idea that you give yourself 5 seconds to get up and go move towards your task in order to outpace your brain's ability to come up with an excuse. It's this really effective way of moving yourself towards getting something done before you can convince yourself otherwise. Teaching yourself to turn your brain off is sort of a muscle that you learn to develop. And the more that you do it, the more comfortable you are with not even having to be motivated to do tasks. Motivation is usually connected to a feeling. If you feel great, it's quite easy to get up and do whatever it is that you need to do. But what happens when you're feeling uninspired or sluggish or just unmotivated? What ends up happening is a lot of procrastination and putting off the tasks that you know you need to get to. You could wait until you feel differently, but here's a thought. What if getting the thing done is what's going to change the way that you feel about it? Turns out, things are often bigger in your head than they actually are in reality. And the longer that you're going to put it off, the more your feelings of dread are going to be about it. And it's going to make it way harder to get started. An easy place to start would be to identify one major goal that you have per quarter and 2 minor ones. A quarter is just 3 months, and so breaking it down into a smaller chunk will make it feel a lot more attainable. Another thing that's really important is to really consider what your life is pointed towards. It's hard to imagine what it's going to be 10 years from now, but think about 3 to 5 years. Where would you like to be within that time frame? And then break it down into what needs to happen this year to point you towards that goal. Earlier in the video, I alluded to the fact that turning your brain off is not going to always work for you. And if it's not working for you, here are some things that I suggest you think about. You may need to process something that you're avoiding. Sometimes sitting with your feelings and thinking through why am I feeling this way can be really helpful. Often procrastination stems from feelings of low self-worth or low self-esteem, and also a question of what your identity actually is. And taking the time and giving yourself space to really think through that can be helpful. And finally, you may just be in a season of transition. When you're in a season of transition, you're leaving something that you were in and you're going to something that you're yet to step into. And so that's going to be really hard to do anything in. I find that simply just being grateful for where I came from and excited about what's coming up is all that's required. Learning to stay present within it is going to be really good for you. Last week, I turned my brain off and launched a fitness brand to trick myself into getting more fit. You can watch that right here.